What's good, y'all? It's Brian with the Trial and Error Podcast. I'm still getting used to this vertical format, so you guys got to bear with me on this one. On today's episode, we're going to continue last week's conversation about misinformation and how it can be dangerous. Um, we did a lot of riffing about other stuff, but um, I think it is a vital conversation to have when we're talking about how we see a lot of misinformation just kind of floating around. And as a journalism student, um, that's what I went to school for. Like I went for the backstory. Um, I was in college for about 4.5 years. Started out as an engineering major, and then switched over to journalism with a minor in sociology. And I did that. Like the only reason I stopped going to college, like I dropped out so I could start working. Like I was like maybe a class or two shy of graduating, and so I've done a lot of the coursework as a journalism major up until this point. And so that's what my first love was. My goal initially was I wanted to be. I worked in the radio station. I wanted to be a hip hop journalist and interview a lot of the people that were the tastemakers in the culture and things along those lines. And so that's what my original goal was. So journalism is always going to have a place in my heart. And I think one of the things that we see a lot on uh, specifically, the big corporate journalism, I've seen more people kind of take issue with this, but this inability or not wanting to upset the apple cart, if you will, when it comes to dealing with propagandists that are operating in the government. And they don't want to necessarily call out some of the false conversations. And I know that there's a chunk of people out there that think it's all fake news and it's a very reductive take. Um, it is a reductive take. There's one side where we don't call out the BS that we see on the media. And then there's another side where anything that they don't agree with in the media, if it's a story they don't like, or if it's presenting facts in a way they don't like, it's automatically fake. And so there's not a whole lot of nuance to be had there. The concept that that corporate media is a liberal construct is ridiculous, just based on the who's in the main seats of power at these big news corporations, and it's not left leaning, if you will. And so I do feel like what we are seeing is we're seeing two interests butting heads. We're seeing the corporate side butting heads with the media side. The corporate side is their job is to make money. It's the capitalist thing. Their job is they exist to make money. The media side is to report the news. And these two things don't always align with one another. Um, and so we get corporate mandates coming down from up top where we have to have this most sterilized version of news. There's one thing that um, people that are used to being in control of everything don't like. They don't like when they have uh, um, an information source that they don't have control over, that they can't exert force over. And that's the conflict that we're in most newsrooms right now, where a lot of people want to do the journalism they went to school for, where it is biased towards the truth. Because I've said that a lot. People are like, well, we need unbiased news. No, we need news that actually has a hard bias towards factual information, regardless of who or what they're interviewing, who or what they're talking to. But we're seeing where you have people that want to do the journalism they went to school for, but they also have this career hovering over them, and this idea that they have to keep their job. And in order to keep their job, they have to kind of dance for the powers that be that are sitting at the top of these news agencies. And more times than not, they're conglomerates right now. I know um, Disney is running ABC, ESPN, and all that other stuff. Um, Paramount is CBS, and I don't know. It used to be General Electric. I'm not sure who it is over NBC anymore. But they have their marching orders from the people at top, and a lot of times, especially when we're looking at like the press corps in DC and stuff, um, they're walking a thin line because they have to be able to, you want them to be able to call out BS. Like you want the press corps to be able to call out BS, but they have a mandate from the people above that they can't piss off people in the administration by asking too many penetrating questions. And that's not just a recent invention, but it's more prominent now since we're dealing with things that can actually be fact checked in real time. And so it's very rare to see the press corps get confrontational when they are face to face with actual bullshit. Like when it's actual real bullshit that they're dealing with, you could see how uncomfortable. I could watch them and see how uncomfortable they are when they're faced with something that is not factual, and they're chomping at the bit, like they're holding themselves back to not ask the more penetrating questions. And it's very uncomfortable to watch. And so I think last week it might have been Mary Bruce from ABC, and she got lambasted by our commander in chief by this for asking some very penetrating questions, and he didn't like it. And it was interesting to see how some of the more traditional political journalists responded to it, because they're trying to give her kudos, but at the same time, they're making sure that she doesn't get herself in trouble with the powers that be. Because here's the thing, we could talk about, well, Disney is this liberal or conservative. Disney is in the capitalist game. They're there to make money. And so they are going to do, they're going to do whatever they need to do in order to make those dollars. And so what you're going to see is coverage that drives money to their pockets, or at least doesn't drive money away from them. That makes sense. And so we saw that, and it was really kind of an interesting thing. And I'm pulling up what she questioned him about, because it was about Khashoggi and the royalty from Saudi Arabia was in the room. And so she asked about the murder of Khashoggi. And he turned really mad. He got really mad about it. And it was jarring in a sense, because we're not used to our press corps, at least that's not like Newsmax or Fox News. We're not used to the press corps being that blunt and that pointed with the question with the administration. More times than not, they're trying to go along to get along. And so it was kind of a jarring thing, but it was interesting. And that's more, guys, that is traditional journalism. You ask the uncomfortable questions. You just don't go with the press line. And I'm waiting for one of the journalists, actually, when he insults them, to actually stand their ground and say, who are you talking to? Because the thing we need to understand is we're dealing with governors or presidents or senators or whoever. They don't, just because they're in that elected seat of power doesn't mean that they are rulers of anything. And they can't get away with talking to people crazy. And journalists are typically the people that get the most of their ire. And I would love to see one of these journalists put their feet in the ground and stand their ground on it, stand 10 toes down and question things and say, absolutely not. You're not going to talk to me like this. I'm dying to see it, because it used to be like that. Dan Rather wasn't going to take no shit from somebody, bro. Like, if you go back, these people aren't, even Barbara Walters stood her ground when she's dealing with a hostile person that she's interviewing. And so we need to see more of that, but we're going to see less of it just because of the corporate influence in media. And so when we talk about independent journalism, and people mistake what independent journalism is. Independent journalism isn't just news that agrees with you in your worldview. Independent journalism is they exist outside of the corporate oligarchy. And so a lot of times these are nonprofit news organizations and things along those lines. And so when we talk about independent media, that's what we're talking about. And more times than not, you're going to feel like independent journalism has a left-leaning bias, where really it's not. And it's hard to explain that to people. One of the things is, and you find it with it's kind of like what happens when people go to college, right? When you have a more worldly view, and you interact with more people, that does kind of make your mind and the way that you talk and the way that you interact and interface with society a little more liberal when you interact with multiple people, when you interact with people that aren't just like you. It opens up your mind and you learn about other walks of life and you become more tolerant of other people. And so when we talk about journalists having this left-leaning bias, a lot of times it's just they have a bias from interacting with a lot of different people. They have a more worldly worldview, and so they could see a lot of different perspectives, and so they're not going to be as rigid as somebody who's interacted with people less, if that makes sense. Hey, Fearless.
Yeah, what's going on, champ?
I'm just nerding out about we're talking about we're back to the misinformation thing, and I'm talking about the thing I saw last week with the correspondent from ABC in the press corps, Mary Bruce, and it was kind of a refreshing thing to see her almost confrontational with the administration regarding that Saudi journalist that got killed, Khashoggi. It was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and Trump sitting in and they're being interviewed by the press. And so she asked a very pointed question about Khashoggi's murder, which was greenlit by the head of Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And your boy and Trump got mad. He was really irritated by that. But it was a really pointed question. And it was kind of a jarring thing because we're not used to seeing that out of the press corps as of late. They just sit there and take all kinds of abuse and let they sit there and take all kinds of abuse and let people lie to their faces, and they never challenge anybody. They never call them out for being dishonest. And so it's interesting to see that actually happen. And it's a rare, like, and I was just talking about the nature of corporate media and whatnot. And a lot of these people get in with the intention of doing the journalism they went to school for. But since they got bosses who are, who are looking at their bottom line and have other interests outside of journalism that make them money, they are going to influence to a degree what's said and what's not said. These corporations, they want to maintain, and this is what we're up against. This is the reality. The corporations want to maintain a good working relationship with the presidential administration because they also have contracts and they also benefit from policy. They also benefit from executive orders. And they can be hurt if an administration is vindictive and wants to punish people. And so they're always going to try to brown nose to a degree the current administration. And so you see less and less pointed questions. Like I said, Dan Rather ain't taking that shit. Like Dan Rather ain't gonna let you talk crazy to him. Barbara Walters would challenge people. Like we're starting to see this new level of journalists where they're company men and they're more worried about losing their job than anything else. And so it's just refreshing to see somebody say, "No, I'm going to ask this," and it's a penetrating question. But you have the guy that greenlit the murder and dismemberment of murder, torture, murder, and dismemberment of a journalist who was critical of their regime. She asked a very pointed question, and he didn't like it. And so it was just a refreshing thing to see as a journalism nerd, because typically the press corps, they've kind of been neutered where they can't ask those pointed questions.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
So so this is when he went to Saudi, right?
No, this is when the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia came to the United States to meet with the president, and so she directed
for what reason?
Just head of state visiting to talk business, because I mean, if we're being transparent, like if our goal is transparency here, he has vested interest in Saudi Arabia. He has he has family business in Saudi Arabia. He's profiting directly from stuff in Saudi Arabia and goings on in Saudi Arabia. He has business interests. And so he's inviting the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to America, because Saudi Arabia does very much run like a kind of a corporation, to be quite honest with you. a lot. They're investing a lot of money in sports, in United States sports. What they're doing is they're trying to almost rebrand themselves, and so any visibility that soft pedals their image as that makes them not look like a a murderous and brutal regime is going to help. And so this is a PR appearance for the Prince of Saudi Arabia, if you will. And so, but Trump actually literally has business interests over there. And so I know people don't like to hear that, but I mean, that's what's happening right now. And so he was here as kind of a PR thing to show that we have a great working relationship together. And so, and I'm gonna read, Mary Bruce was sitting there and she asked a very direct question. She said, "Your Royal Highness, U.S. intelligence concluded you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist, and 9/11 families are furious that you're here in the Oval Office. Why would Americans trust you? And same to you, Mr. President."
Okay. Can I see the?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Pull that up.
Because
so people can see what you're looking at.
And so when she said 9/11 families are furious, because also the Saudis, they did bankroll a chunk of. They did bankroll 9/11. They made it a possible. They made it something that's possible. And so, he got mad about this question. And so this is the meeting in the Oval Office. I'm not going to show the clip of it because I don't want to get us flagged for copyright. Because I don't know necessarily how the news clips work. No, you can't. You have to be real careful when you're using entertainment clips, but news clips I got to be careful of too. But yeah, Trump called her a terrible reporter or whatnot, and basically she confronted him about, if it was appropriate for Trump's family to be doing a business in Saudi Arabia while he's president, which is happening. And then she asked that very piercing question to the prince, and he went attacked her and said it's fake news, and then said his family's business operations were separate from him, which
they're not.
Yeah, we know that as businessmen, we know that is not absolutely not true.
Yeah, no, that is not.
We're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars at stake. And so this is the person that they murdered, Khashoggi. He was an investigative journalist who was uncovering a lot of atrocities that Saudi Arabia was running. And I mean, it goes deeper because I mean, there's been, and I got to find the article that happened around the time that Twitter became X and got acquired. There's a lot of Saudi money that was involved in that, to the point where Twitter was actually outing and doxing journalists.
So what happened? What happened to him?
Who, Khashoggi?
Yeah,
this guy.
Yeah.
He was critical of the Saudis and the Saudi royal family, and I forgot what embassy he got lured to, but basically they lured him to an embassy. And then the Saudis, the strongmen of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had him kidnapped, and they spirited him off. I don't know if it was Saudi Arabia or Turkey, or forgot what country it was in, but they spirited him off, and then they tortured him, and then they murdered him, and then they dismembered him.
So they asked him questions. They tortured him. After you've already answered their question.
No, he didn't. He built his reputation about doing investigative journalism around the Saudi family. This was just to silence him because he was a critic of the royal family. And so the royal family sent their goons out to grab him, and they tortured and murdered him.
And then dismembered him. Why?
To shut him up.
I mean, but if he's already dead, why dismember him?
To make a point. To let other journalists know let other Saudi-born journalists know that we don't want you to do that.
Yeah, I'm looking at this that you have here. It says Trump later criticized Bruce for asking the prince a horrible insubordinate, and not just a terrible and just a terrible question. He laced her after a third query about why the White House is waiting for. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Congressional action.
Well, yeah, about congressional action to release more detail about sex offender Jeffrey Epstein correspondence. Why not just do it now? Bruce asks. And this is the part that I was kind of looking at.
Mhm.
It's not the question that I mind, Trump said. It's your attitude. I think that you are a terrible reporter, and it's just the way that you ask these questions. How are you supposed to ask them? I don't like. Do you have to have some type? Do you need to be jovial? Do they need to be kind of like a jokey joke, like, "Hey, Mr. President, hey, what's going on with the?" You know what I'm saying? What's my man? What's his name? Like a Jerry Seinfeld type
Yeah.
of question
mad.
type thing. Like, and then again, he still never answered the question.
He's not, and she's not supposed to ask that question. That's really what he wanted to say. Because when you're saying insubordinate, that means that he sees her as somebody that is subordinate to him. That she-
beneath him, right?
Yeah, and that's not what her role is. He's
No.
not. I'm waiting. Here's the thing. I'm waiting for one of these press people in the press pool to say, "Who the fuck are you talking to?"
That part.
Because they can say that. Who are you talking to?
Yeah,
I
they're not
don't-
saying that though.
I don't work for you.
Right.
You're not my boss. You're not my supervisor. I don't answer to you.
Mhm.
I'm here to ask you questions. Whether you choose to answer them or not is really your decision.
That part.
But they don't want to do that because they're letting him bully them. And in previous presidential administrations, this was not a thing. Because there was this, it was kind of like how would you put it? A social contract where the press corps' job is to ask the penetrating questions, the administration's job is to answer them. And that's how it used to be. And now they've normalized where the press corps is subordinate to the person in the White House. That's not the case anymore.
Right.
So that's what happened. And I think when we talk about misinformation, this is like what we're seeing is there's a push for literal state news. And like if we look at like PBS was, right? Like the Public Broadcasting Corporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it was set up, it was built, and I forgot which president signed it into law, but basically he said, we need an independent body that produces television that's independent of the will of the government. And that's why the news hour, was it the McNeil Lehrer News Hour and the BBC News and a lot of these television, a lot of these news shows that will come on public broadcasting, they would tell you stories that you didn't hear in regular media. And their journalists were the ones that could ask those really penetrating questions. NPR's investigative journalism team could ask those really penetrating and hard-hitting questions. And currently, we got to call it what it is. The current administration does not like that, and that's why they defunded a lot of the government's contribution to public broadcasting.
What, I think it's like over 1.1 billion.
Yeah,
and I just read that today.
And what that does, like locally, like in where we're at in the Omaha Bellevue Metro, like it's going to impact us a little bit. But there are states and cities and towns out there where they don't have local news. Public broadcasting is their local news.
Oh wow.
And so they're not going to have news. They're not. They're just not going to. And like they, was on, I think it was on John Oliver, but I saw it reported somewhere else before he touched it, where PBS was literally, since they were the only local news, they were the ones that were able to alert people that severe weather was coming. Like they were the only lifeline to alert people severe weather was coming, because national news isn't going to tell you specifically, hey, there's a tornado, a life-threatening tornado coming your way. You need to move out of the way. They're not going to have that level of awareness. They got to cover the entire country. Local news normally does that. And so the PBS affiliate was substituting for the local news, and they were the ones that were notifying people when severe weather rolls in and what to do, and that's going away. And it's all because it's an uncontrollable news outlet. That's really what it is.
So here's my question about a lot of this, because here's the thing, I know our stuff is trial and error, but when it comes to this, I'm going to ask more questions because I understand the stuff, but I don't really get it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Whereas you are the our premier investigative reporter when it comes to this, because I mean, this is what you went to school for, so you understand this a little bit more. Why is this so important that we have, like, I get it from a part that I love NPR, I love PBS type stuff or whatever. I'm probably one of the only 5 people in America that has PBS and NPR as apps on my phone, right? But I'm also the same guy who subscribes to and pays for Reader's Digest, right? Like once a month. I'm not even joking. I have a subscription to that. So why is this so important? And why is it? How is this harmful to people if these things go away?
Okay, so and I'll approach it from let's kind of deconstruct it. So when we're in the Reagan era, right? We're talking Reagan era, where we saw that first major defunding of a lot of educational initiatives and stuff that were targeted to poor kids, right? Where did a lot of children learn their alphabet first?
Sesame Street.
Yeah. Reading Rainbow, Sesame Street, the 3-2-1 Contact, where we learn science and stuff like that. Like the educational stuff that they used to show on there could reach kids no matter what their socioeconomic status was. And a lot of kids learned a lot of counting and stuff through the songs and things like that on Sesame Street. And so the educational television was there, the cultural television was there, but then also the news. Like I said, there are plenty of places around the country where that's their only news source, and so it's not just entertainment, it's news, it's teaching people about the arts, teaching people about their world and stuff like that. And so the reason why public television is important is because we truly have and the other side is, from a news standpoint, you have news sources that aren't tied to a conglomerate. Not just a corporation, an international conglomerate that has a lot of varied business interests, where one reporter can absolutely disrupt the conglomerate's business. That's why if you're sitting there watching ABC, they always have to say our parent corporation, Disney. And they're very judicious about anything that any news that could paint Disney in a negative light. They have to be very careful to soft pedal it. And so that's why because it acts as a natural buffer. NPR and all those things act as a natural buffer. Shows like All Things Considered, they act as a natural buffer to corporate media and corporate media interests. There's a huge battle over what's happening at 60 Minutes right now, where they purged a lot of their staff over editorial control, because it used to be 60 Minutes had that level of independence where they could cover whatever they wanted to and ask whatever questions they wanted to. And slowly but surely they've been getting that peeled back to the point where one of their major editors bounced, like a longtime editor, because they tried to enforce control over him.
So who owns 60 Minutes now?
Paramount. Paramount owns 60 Minutes. They own CBS, is what it is, and then they put Barry Weiss in charge of it. And she's been like, I know that she's been, specific groups celebrate her, but I followed her career. There's a bias there's a bias that I can't necessarily say what the bias is on air. I'll put it in the chat room for you, but there's a really strong bias, and she said some really problematic things regarding race and specifically Black people, like a lot of anti-Black stuff. And so, but she's in charge of. She's been promoted to
she's a Jewish gay lady, right?
Mm-hmm. And so now she's in charge of all the news. And one of the people that was key in putting her in that position. Oh man, we're about to go into the rabbit hole. All right, so one of the people that was key in getting her in that position was Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is,
I know he is. Billionaire dude.
Yeah. He's the billionaire. He was one of the PayPal mafia. He started PayPal.
Alongside Elon Musk and a few others.
Yep. But he's one of the heads of Palantir. And Palantir is the premier private intelligence agencies in the world. Which is it's scary how Palantir will just come out and say, yeah, we do the nasty things that keep America in first place. They come out and say it. They'll say it to their shareholders. We do the unseemly things. Palantir is the ones that normally provide intelligence on if we bomb somebody or blow somebody up. Palantir has provided that level of intelligence and stuff like that. And so this is Peter Thiel's baby. And, we look at it, and most of their contracts are government contracts. One of the things about Palantir, though, is it's not just it's really not just the intelligence play. It's about the information. They want to be able to collect information on every single American citizen and build a dossier.
Okay.
That's kind of what their goal is. When they talk to their shareholders, that's what the goal is. And so it's amassing as much information as possible on me and you and anybody else that could that they could see as problematic and get an eye on.
Or somebody who's considered like a disruptor.
Yeah.
Type thing.
So
let me ask you, funny question. I know it's going to be before I even ask. I think years ago, when they would see Dr. Umar Johnson, I think that years ago, when they saw him, they were like, "Oh shit, okay, hold on, we need to watch this one."
Mm-hmm.
And then once his character became more prevalent, it's like, nah, I think we're good. you know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, I think we're fine. Because again, he can still give you all this information. But when you have people showing up to listen, okay. But showing up to listen is one thing. Showing up to be guided is something totally different. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe that's another thing too that didn't really do much for him, because he would show up to give information, right, show up to teach you stuff, but it really wasn't anything after that. When Malcolm showed up to talk, look at the percentage of people who became Muslims after that.
Yeah.
Look at the percentage of people who became members of the Nation of Islam after that. You know what I'm saying? So there was some type of groupthink. There was some type of action that was taken after he talked.
Right.
Joining the Rainbow Coalition, the Civil Rights Movement, the Freedom Bus movement, and all that stuff. And towards the South was kind of one of those. It's kind of one of those things as well, right? You hear Dr. Martin Luther King talk, Bernard Rushton talk. All these people are like in his inner circle talk, and you did something.
Yeah.
with Dr. Umar, you didn't do anything.
Well, it was giving
You-
money.
I mean, yeah, for a school that
Mhm.
you see what I'm saying. So, but again, there really wasn't. And if anything, shit, you can call that a Ponzi scheme. You know, if you really wanted to.
Right.
I mean, it's not really too far fetched from it, but he did produce something. What hubris comes in all shape. Humility does as well.
Right.
I'm just kind of looking at that like, wait, what? Like, what are you? What? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, what are you talking about? And so, when I look at leaders in general, if I had an intelligent country
Mhm.
or whatever, I'd be looking for not only who's talking, who's following the people who's talking, and what are you following them into?
Yeah.
And that's where I would start collecting my data
Mhm.
on that particular thing. You know what I'm saying? But I think that they start to first and foremost want to know your character. See, Brother Malcolm, I think was a lot harder to infiltrate and to say stuff about him because he was everything that he said he was.
Yeah.
Everything. Family man, father, humanitarian, this and the other. And he get up and tell you, I was in prison for this and the other. I did this ABC, 1, 2, 3, XYZ. I did all that. This is who I am today. This is the man that I am today. And these are the things that I've been seeing
Right.
as the man that I stand before you, right?
Mhm.
Martin Luther King, if you really think about it, Hoover and the FBI and everybody else hated him because he was saying one thing and behind closed doors doing something different. Now, for me personally, who gives a shit what you do behind there? What you're doing right here, helping people, that's all I'm concerned about. Whether you're doing XYZ, that ain't none of my concern.
Well, I think Hoover actually low key loved the fact that he could have that leverage, because in his mind,
Right. Yes, of course.
in his mind,
Of course.
as he had that leverage, he thought that he could leverage that over MLK. I've seen his daughter talk about it and stuff.
And
And
it
that
didn't work.
and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
And so, because basically he's like, okay, well, you can, basically it's like, I mean, let it out. And if they really had something, they would have released it. That's what my take is. If they would have had something to smear him, they would have released it.
Yeah,
A
they
lot,
wouldn't have. They wouldn't have waited.
they wouldn't have said, they would have. It's all rumors and innuendo, because they would have released it. But to the larger point, we're talking about who and looking at the character and stuff. Okay, rabbit hole time. So looking at what Peter Thiel is involved in, right? Peter Thiel, PayPal Mafia, South African expat. Um, what does he actually believe? There's a gentleman named Curtis Yarvin. Him and Peter Thiel's had many conversations with them. They've had interviews and stuff. He's quoted some things that Yarvin has said. Yarvin believes in this thing called dark enlightenment, which is basically we want to run the entire planet like a corporation. Government should be corporations where democracy doesn't exist, and it's all based on what the CEO says, right? And so Yarvin in shorthand basically came out and said, some people are more, and I'm paraphrasing, some people are more suited to be slaves than other people. Who do you think he's talking about? But that's who Peter Thiel follows. Elon follows him to a degree too, and he's quoted him in media and stuff. And so if this is the guy that they're following, and his thread is really anti, like he thinks that democracy is a plague. sees it as a negative net benefit, a negative benefit, and he thinks that basically it's kind of like this doomsday prepper kind of mentality where the world's ready to collapse, and um, the people, the followers of Yarvin, the people that follow Curtis Yarvin and whatnot, they see themselves as because it's not just Elon and it's not just Peter Thiel, the guy that runs Stripe, and a couple of other major players in Silicon Valley are fans of his. They see it as when everything collapses, then we're set up to be the next people that are in charge. We've talked about this before, but they see themselves as the people that are going to be in charge because they have a lot of money and resources and whatnot.
I don't think that they understand how a lot of this stuff works out, because you might be, but what good is a dollar? Let me show you something. What good is a dollar if you can't buy anything?
Right.
What good is 1 million of these? You can't buy anything. They'd be great for campfires.
Right.
But what good is a dollar if and when you can't feed your family? What good is $1 billion if my son is starving, or he has cancer, or he has this and the other, and there's no help for? Actually, no, there is help for him.
Mm-hmm.
But because I don't have $250,000 sitting in some offshore account, you're not going to help my child.
Mm-hmm.
I need you. I mean, what happens if and when this happens enough and one person pops you, and then other parents are like, you know what? Fuck it. What do we have to live for?
Right.
And then they start popping at you. And then it gets to the point where you can't go anywhere. If you're seen anywhere, somebody's going to pop at you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Seriously. And I'm not trying to make fun of it or nothing like that. But King and Kirk got popped the same exact way, out in the open. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and what's homeboy from New York who's sitting there waiting for him to go into work, dropped him on the streets.
Right.
Like it was nothing. So my point is that you can keep playing with people all you like. And it doesn't take it doesn't take thousands or millions of people to rise up against you. It only takes 1 or 2 people to get the ball rolling on everything else.
So
that's all I'm saying.
The concept is, and it's gone a couple of different things. There's called startup cities, freedom cities. There's one in California that I think they finally defeated it. They were trying to, basically trying to sue farmers in California to force them to give up their land. And basically they were going to build a new city there. And the city it wasn't going to include any kind of local governance or anything. And the people there would be subservient to the will of whoever is elected the board of this city. And that it was like they're going to basically test what it's like to have a city in America with no democracy. And they ended up stopping.
It's basically a monarchy then.
Yeah. And they basically, the people, the farmers and stuff stopped it because, and they actually were trying to sue farmers saying they were encroaching on eminent domain. And I think the person in charge of that one was the head of Stripe. He was trying to sue the farmers to force them to give up their land, saying that it wasn't sustainable farming anyway, and all kinds of other stuff. So he could gobble up their land so he could build this startup city. And I think they managed to stall him out and defeat it in court. But now I think there's going to be now that they have a president or an administration that's friendly to that, they are going to absolutely push it. Let's see. There's a one Prosperia. Okay, there's. I'm actively looking up some of this stuff so I can be factually accurate. There's another one, and I don't think it's Costa Rica. It's somewhere in Central America where they are basically threatening to bankrupt the government because the government agreed to the startup city, but then they started funneling water away from the residents into the startup city, and people were like going without water. And the government said, well, we can't allow for this. And they said, well, you signed this contract. We can sue you we can bankrupt you. It's in Honduras. That's what's happening in Honduras. Where they're basically trying to bankrupt. I'll pull it up. They're trying to bankrupt Honduras from building this enclave for billionaires and tech bros, where there's no law outside of what the CEO and the board decide what the law is.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, all this, that's what the play is. Right now we're seeing a real strong push for people who have the money. It's not enough for them to have the money. It's I don't know what it is. In my mind, if I have $1 billion tomorrow, I got $1 billion, man. I ain't got to worry about none of this stuff, bro. I'm out here doing side missions, I'm doing stuff that's just for my own benefit, stuff that's entertaining to me, right? But there's a certain group of super billionaires where they have to control the world. Does that am I making sense? Like, to me, that's such a weird concept. And part of them controlling the world, I'm gonna pull up this Prosperia thing. Part of them controlling the world is controlling the media and making sure they control what information gets put out there and what information does not. Ergo, it goes back to our conversation about misinformation. So this is an article from The Guardian. Independent journalism is a beautiful thing. If you can support The Guardian, please do. But yeah, Hondurans fight against crypto colonists. And this is Prosperia. They're basically trying to build this city. And initially the government agreed to it because they thought it would be a boon to their economy. But now they're realizing this city is going to gobble up all the resources and not put anything back into the island.
Right. I mean, but at the same time, it's so funny, man. I have this book. Where is it at? I don't know if I have it in here. Let me see. I know stuff. I don't know. I got this book and it's called and I told you about it before. A small place. By Jamaica Kincaid.
Yep.
And this is kind of what she's talking about. In that where tourists come and they treat somebody else's land, somebody else's culture like it's just a walk on, just like it's like they're peons. And I was just kind of thinking about that, like, man, like, and that really sucks that their government would sell them out like that in general. And then say, oh, well, I mean, take the money, sign the contract, and then later look to see what these people are actually doing because you didn't read the fine print.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, no, this ain't what I signed up for. Actually, it's exactly what you signed up for. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's exactly what you signed up for. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, if they get bankrupt, I hate to say that, but that's on them.
Well,
go ahead.
The thing I'm going to put in there, though, this is the caveat, because the government officials that brought this city and negotiated the deal, they aren't in the government anymore. They got voted out. And so now it's a completely new government that has to deal with what the previous administration.
Right, with the previous administration. Okay. So, and which is really funny because that was another question I was going to ask you. With all the stuff that Trump is doing, and I don't, not just him, because he can only do this if people are allowing him to do this.
Yep.
Number one. Number two, all these programs, all of these declassifications, like the nursing and the counseling and all that stuff that he's doing, when he in the next 3 years, when he's out, what happens once he's gone? Are they bringing? I was talking to Jessica about this today, and I told her, I said, I really think that you're going to see whether or not this was all Trump or this was a bigger thing once he's out of office. Because what happens? I mean, will they bring these programs back? But you know what I'm saying? Because if he got rid of them, you can bring them back.
Yeah. I think what'll happen, if you're asking me, I think what we're seeing is a cult of personality around Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he leaves the office, one way or the other, whether it's the next election or whether he shuffles off this mortal coil before the next, election, I think what'll happen is you'll see that cult of personality fall apart. I think because a lot of this stuff, and here's the thing, and this is the assumption that I think this is one of the assumptions that kind of drives me nuts. I'll come back to this prosperity thing. I'm gonna take it off the screen though. One of the things that drives me nuts about what we're dealing with is he just spams out bullshit. He just makes up stuff on the fly, and then it instantly becomes policy. Like he just says shit. He just says stuff. And all of a sudden it's public policy. And I don't think there's a level of foresight that goes along with whether this thing is sustainable, whether it even makes sense. I think what's happening is the cult of personality surrounding him is so strong that he says a thing and then they end up making it into law without any regard to, is this a sustainable thing? Is this thing built to last? Is it going to do more harm than good? And so I think after he leaves, we're going to go through pretty much the same process that we went through last time, where we're going to end up, the next person that ends up inheriting this mess is going to have to spend 3.5 years unpacking all of these things that were never meant to last anyway. I would assume, for me, I don't necessarily perceive him as somebody that has foresight or who thinks in that cause and effect kind of way.
Right.
I see him more like the kids I used to work with in my programs, where they're thinking next 5 minutes. Right. What's the next 5 minutes hold? What's any surviving minute to minute? And so I don't think that this stuff is built to last. And so I don't really I understand the harm that it's going to do short term. I understand the harm it can do long term. Like there is, we've lost decades of research at the beginning of this year. Research projects that have been spanning decades that were going to transform, virology and all kinds of other stuff, brain stuff, all these bleeding edge kind of health studies and things that they were doing to come up with the next generation of medicines and things to prevent illness. That's gone. And we'll never get that back. Or it'll take another 20 years. Because if you're doing a study that's 20 years and then 16 years, somebody cuts off the funding, when the funding starts up, what do you have to do? Got to start over.
Right.
So I think
same thing they did with COVID.
Yeah.
Because it was SARS is how it started off. And then that programming, their testing got shut down. And then 10, 15 years later, COVID hits, and we have no idea how to combat it because it's mutated from this thing over here that we were working on, and you guys shut everything down.
And if we had funded it the entire time, then we would have COVID wrapped up in,
no time.
And see, and I think that's the thing that people don't understand. We talked about it. There's two things that I know as a journalism major. There's two things that people do not understand, and it drives me crazy when they report it on the news. They don't understand medical research and they don't understand scientific research. And the news doesn't understand it either. So what you see on the news is they'll come on and say, well, latest studies show that X, Y, and Z, and it's some medical thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The studies haven't shown anything. The studies are inconclusive. The journalists on there got this piece of paper slapped in front of them that says, this is what this study says. The study hasn't concluded anything. It's still in progress. Their findings are pulled out of context and presented like they're final. These are incremental kind of things. So they may see it in one context, but not another context. So when it gets reported, they're only reporting a fraction of that study.
Okay.
But then it ends up becoming, well, this is what the latest health thing is. Like, where was eggs? Eggs make you live long. Then eggs will kill you. But then they'll make you live long again.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll kill you. And all of it came to, well, studies, scientists are saying. Scientists aren't saying that. Medical professionals aren't saying that yet.
Right.
That is what the study showed them so far, but the study is still in progress.
Right.
And so, but since we don't have that context to understand how this research actually works, we just take it as this is now an accepted theory. And I'm gonna throw this in here real quick for those that are watching. When I say theory, in scientific parlance, when you say a theory is a fact until it's disproven. When we're talking about science. So if a person who has that scientific background says it's a theory, what they're saying is this is what we perceive to be a fact at this point in time. It's not the same when I say I have a theory about this, where I'm having an idea, but it's not fully fleshed out yet. So when we say a scientific theory, you're talking about what's considered a fact. Whereas,
so then why don't they just call it a fact?
Because that's not what it. Because in whatever, I don't know, whatever mechanism that they have to create the vocabulary, theory has just become a scientific theory is something that they consider to be factual. Because you can build around a theory. So there's enough information to establish this as a theory, theoretical, something that you can imagine.
Okay, so it'd be different if I were to say that something is faith-based as opposed to evidence-based.
Yeah.
So if I say if I say that something's faith-based, it just means that it's based on it's lacking evidence, and I need you just to believe,
right?
Because it says it right here. I need you to believe that this and the other. So you need to believe, as opposed to evidence-based is here. Let me show you these particular things of how we came up with this. So that means that whatever evidence I've had and the result I get, you should get the same exact results based on the same evidence, based on the same results that I got. You should get the same ones based off of what I did. Now, if I did one thing and you did the same exact thing, but you don't get the same results that I got, then technically it's not evidence-based.
Right.
It's more faith-based again.
So I'm gonna show you because I got an illustration for you.
All right, perfect. Give it to me.
So when we're talking about a scientific theory, okay, so use of theory for science is explanation supported by scientific evidence. Okay, so when I say scientific theory is fact, it's considered factual, but science is interesting because theories only exist until we can actually disprove them with another theory. So it's kind of a self-correcting mechanism, right? So when scientists use the word theory, it's something that's supported by facts. Okay. Scientific theories don't graduate into laws. Scientific theories and scientific laws are different things. Okay. But when we use the word theory in conversation, it's just an idea. It's a hunch. When I say I have a theory about something, like when I said on one of my live streams a couple months ago, I said I have a theory that I'm working out that most major cities are just gigantic criminal enterprises that they built infrastructure around.
That makes sense.
And you know, there's anecdotal evidence out there to support it, but that doesn't mean that it is enough to definitively state it. It's just an idea that I have. And it was
Okay.
just for kind of a thing I was doing for the sake of conversation because I do believe that. But just because I believe it doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it universally true or universal law. And so when we say theory and conversation, this is what we're talking about, a hunch and opinion or something like that. And because we use these things interchangeably, we end up eroding what theory is when it comes to science. So when we say science has a theory about that, that means that they can back it up with evidence. Whereas this guy's theory that the earth is flat can't really be backed up with evidence. It's just an idea that he has in his head.
Okay.
So I think that's why, because I think the word theory started out in the science side of things, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of used within the walls of science. And so now I need to look up scientific law versus scientific theory.
Go ahead, please.
Versus scientific law. All right. Okay, so a scientific theory explains why something happens, while a scientific law explains what happens under certain circumstances. But I mean, like I said, I think when we talk about, like, there's different kinds of literacy, right?
Hey, keep talking. I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
There's different types of literacy, right? And one of the things is, science is one of those things that you can have literacy in other aspects, but not have a lot of literacy in science terms and terminology, right? If I said, what's your hypothesis, right? We can use that in a regular kind of parlance, regular conversation or whatnot. But when I'm talking about a hypothesis from a scientific thing, it's this is what we're trying to prove, or this is what we're trying to disprove. Okay. There's specific things I went to, like one of the things is I came up, one of the schools I went to was a science center. It was a science magnet. And so every year, as part of our grade, we had to do science experiments. And we had to actually formally write them all the way out, the way that they write out science experiments. So you had to write out your hypothesis, I'm trying to remember this hypothesis, variables, control variables, all the other things. Like you had to write out all that stuff. And so we had to learn, we got quizzed on this stuff. And so, was it control variable? God, I spent 5 years doing this. So in science, sorry if you guys are popping in, I'm making sure that I'm being factually accurate. So we actually had to learn scientific method, right? And so in 5th grade, I actually had to I had to construct an entire science experiment and have independent variables, dependent variables, controlled variables. And I actually had to be able to do that in scientific theory and write it out. And that was thing we got graded on. And so one thing I know is a lot of people didn't. And so you just kind of take it for granted that people know the difference between a control variable and an independent variable and stuff like that. And they don't. You just don't. So I'm saying all that to say this. When I say theory, if you're talking about you have a theory on something, a theory on something means you have a hunch or an idea. Unless you're a scientist or unless you are actually talking about scientific theory, which is actually considered a fact because there's scientific facts to back up that theory. And the theory stands until it can be disproven. So that's beside the point. And I'm way far afield of what we were talking about. So one of the things that we're seeing played out is the collapse of nuance, the loss of nuance in talking points and ways that people interact with one another. And collapsing nuance is a way to control conversations or make them reductive, simplify them to conversations that people can have without having to put a lot of thought into it. Okay. And so we're seeing literal thinking become the default mode of society, where we think everything literally, um, where people interpret what's being said as literal, and nobody knows how to look at symbolism or implication anymore. What does this thing actually mean? We talked about it last week, but the concept of current media people doing nowadays people doing media analysis on things like Starship Troopers or RoboCop, which were built as satires. Paul Verhoeven designed them to be satires of what he saw as problematic in modern American society at the time, and people taking them at face value now, as opposed to understanding that these were send-ups of um, capitalism and the military industrial complex and stuff like that. It was symbology. Watching people misunderstand V is for Vendetta, which is crazy work. People misunderstanding what that movie actually means and taking it at face value is maddening. It's a very frustrating thing to see. And we're seeing the rise of literalism, where people don't think around corners. They don't look at symbology or anything along those lines. Um, and so when we have these kind of conversations about around this kind of stuff, um, we lose a lot of people. I know we're going to lose people because we're asking you to think on multiple layers, where the rest of the world just wants you to look at it as one and take everything at face value. We're seeing TV shows actually dumb down their plot lines because they perceive the audience to not be sophisticated enough to understand nuance unless it's slapping them in the face. Okay. And so imagery, metaphor, allegory, they just get taken at face value. And a lot of audiences think it's supposed to tell them what to think, and that's not what it is. So I'm missing the point of satire. That's why it's disappointing when one of these articles from The Onion takes legs and people think it's a real thing. They're not understanding that it's supposed to be satirical and irony driven. There's an entire industry of satirical sports websites where people take what this sports website said and run with it as gospel truth, because since everything's been flat and they can't pick up on nuances where somebody's saying something in a tongue-in-cheek manner, they're thinking that this thing is real. Okay. And so they think every piece of, people think that every piece of fiction has to be a moral lesson, as opposed to the piece of fiction just existing in a gray area. People assume that every work of fiction has to have some kind of moral, and people believe in that a character is an avatar of the creator. That's problematic too. So when we get to crossover that where there's no nuance, everything has to be literal. There is no art anymore. We lose what the meaning of art is, where art is meant to communicate something with or without words, or with or without saying it. Okay. Satire falls when the audience can't tell when something is a joke. And I'm not just talking about bad jokes. Like, there are bad jokes out there where somebody tells a bad joke and they're like, "Oh, you didn't get it." No, there are actual literal bad jokes out there. I'm talking about when you don't have the capacity to understand that this person is saying this thing as a jest. And it's not even saying this horror, like your boy Charlie was really good at saying, "Well, you guys took it seriously." Well, I mean, you meant it seriously. You're trying to retroactively make this thing a joke when it's not really. It was never intended to be a joke. You're stating something that you as a core belief, but when you got pushback on it, then you're saying, "Well, I'm just saying it as a joke." That's not what I'm talking about. Okay. Nuance fails when people are trained to look for being offended instead of meaning. And I don't necessarily 100% agree with that. I think that there's a spectrum, right? Like, people are going to get offended about a lot of different things. But it's also understanding that the thing that just because something offends you doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. That's one. But then two, I don't think that's all there is to it. I don't think we're as reductive where we're saying people are just programmed and primed to take offense instead of looking for meaning. Sometimes I think what we've done is flattened it where people can't really discern what the meaning is from something because they have no ability to detect nuance. They have no ability to detect satire.
I mean, right, or just ask a simple question of, "Hey, what does that mean?"
Right.
You know, I mean, because again, how many times do you say something? I'm like, "Hey, man, well, hey, let's rewind. What does this mean, Largo? Like, let's explain that particular part for people that may not necessarily know. You know what I mean?"
Mhm.
But again, I think that also comes from loving learning in general, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of my favorite people in general, talks about with scientists is the god of the gaps.
Mhm.
And when I was doing my 100 days, 100 nights videos, I talked about that from that learning curve on multiple times, where I tell people that whenever you're starting something, you don't know. So
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know. But as you start to become competent, you're gonna you're gonna fall off, and then you're gonna need that. There's gonna be those gaps that go from what you know to what you have no idea, and then but you understand how this works over here. So
Mhm.
all this right here is that gap. So the objective is you're asking questions and you're trying to fill in the gaps as much as you possibly can until you get to where you're I don't want to say that you I want to say you have confidence. You're competently confident,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense or whatever. So, but in order to get there, you're gonna have to hurdle those gaps that are there. And I think that from what I've seen, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, I see people not necessarily taking advantages of those gaps that they don't know. So they'll try to just fill them in with what they think.
Okay. So you're onto something because there is a cognitive thing there. Human beings will believe they'll believe an incorrect narrative over an incomplete one.
Hmm.
And so the human brain is biased to fill in the gaps when it doesn't know, as opposed to leaving something vague. And so they'll just fill in something. Well, there's got to be more to this story. Well, sometimes there's not.
Hmm.
There's not anything more to the story. The story is what
Hmm.
the story is. But the human brain will create a meaning where there is none.
Yes. Yeah, it deletes what is it? Deletes, generalizes, and distorts information.
Right. And so that's what happens. And so people, and it's the same thing. Like, all right, so the example I saw in one of my cognitive science books was um, where people would trust a doctor that is able to answer questions off the top of the head when asked immediately, but the answers were wrong. They trust that doctor more than a doctor says, I need to actually go look this up.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
So they won't like, and I mean, and a lot of people take advantage of that, bro. Like a lot of scammers take advantage of that. If you can sound confident in what you're saying, you could convince a lot of people to do a lot of different things.
Right.
As long as you could fake confidence, you could just make up shit on the fly. And then they'll say, well, this guy over here who's tripping over his words and has to stop and consider or look things up. Well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But
Hmm.
this person over there that is just talking and talking and talking without stopping, they know what they're talking about. It's a human bias. And I think a lot of people get taken advantage of by that because
Okay.
we end up devaluing people that actually need to go figure shit out.
Okay.
But it's a human thing. And so you're onto something with that. You're right, because we will fill in the gaps. Your brain will absolutely fill in the gaps
Correct.
when, and you almost have to have a discipline against it. Am I
Right.
seeing something that's not there? Um, I fall into the camp of my ADHD force will make me a literal thinker. And sometimes I have to stop myself and say, am I taking this thing literal? So sometimes somebody will say it's something that is a joke and they'll start laughing, and I have to process it for a second. Are they being serious? Are they just playing? Where's this going? And that's just how my brain processes things.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, at least I'm trying to work on that aspect of it. It's something that's kind of been my entire life, where I take things too literally sometimes. And so I've learned as I've grown, you can't take everything literally. But some people, that's the only frequency they ever operate on, is that literal. And if there's gaps in what the narrative is, they will just make up a thing.
Yep.
I got to figure out what that's called. I think I got to figure out what that's called, because I know there was something about split brain confabulation where they take the brain and to treat different types of seizures. Sometimes they will take the brain and bisect the hemispheres, separate the nerves, and so the left brain, the left brain doesn't know what the right brain is doing, and in that gap, people just make up shit. They'll just make up a lie because that's how their brain works. So there's psychological theory behind it, but I got to look it up.
So it's kind of like this thing right here, how the visual illusion shows you this right here, but then here's the brain activity that is kind of like supporting that thing. So your mind is creating what you see to be a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a triangle at all. It's just where these things are positioned. That's just how that works. In my room, I have these. I have like illusionist pictures where if you look from far behind or far away from the picture, it'll look like a person just sitting there or standing. But the closer you get up to that picture, you start to see that there's like, at one photo, I think there's like probably 14, 15 people in the picture. But if you see it from far back, you don't see them. So your mind sees what you think it needs to see. It fills in those other gaps for you.
Right.
Or whatever. So again, a lot of that is perceptual, what do they call it? Perceptual filling in the gaps for certain stuff.
Well, and then there's a thing called the narrative fallacy, where we human beings will opt, like, we have to make a story. We bias towards making stories out of things.
Yeah.
And so that falls into that too. There's all kinds of things. The black and white fallacy, where we reduce the world to black and white, where it's either A or B, where everything's either A or B. I've met people like that, where it's like, well, it's either or. Well, no, it's not. Well, yeah, it is.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not either or. You've created a false dichotomy, and you've decided that it can either be this or it can be that. And sometimes it's not A or B, it's C, D, and E in a combination of things.
Right.
I tell people, like, engaging with people online all the time. Yeah, it's like you're still stuck in this world of political binaries, where it's either this side or that side.
Correct.
And not understanding that there's so many different degrees of political affiliation that one can have in between the two points, that it will blow your mind. Just like when you say, well, once you go far enough left, you get the guns back. People don't understand that. They think, oh, well, all these people on the left are, they're anti-gun. No, they're not. They really aren't at all. But since we operate in this world of political binaries, it's either one or the other. And people don't get it. But yeah, it goes back into that. We have to create a story. We have to fill in the gaps in order to function.
Hold on one sec. I want to show you. Hold on, let me find it. So this is the one that I have in my room. Hold on one sec. Here it is. This is the one that I have in my room.
Okay.
And I love this because, again, when you're looking at it from a distance, looks like, a portrait of what they would call Jesus. But again, if you look at it closely, you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 diff, 17 different people in there, including a horse, right? Actually, no, excuse me, 18 people.
And I can see it.
18 different individuals. Now, again, if you're looking at it from a distance and you just walk up kind of close, or whatever, you start seeing like, hey, well, what am I looking at? Right? Now, again, if you show this to 20 different people from a distance, if this guy right here is, if somebody say he committed a crime, this man's going to jail. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
This guy's going to jail. And then come to find out it was never a man, it was a bunch of different people in there. But that's the reason why I keep stuff like this in my house. I don't just have this one, I have other ones too. And again, like I said though, man, the reason why I have stuff like that in my house is just to let so it always kind of remind me that you got to be looking at things a little deeper.
Right.
That just because you think things are one way, they may not necessarily be that way. Right.
Well, right. And that's the danger I think a lot of us fall into. Like I said, we believe what our minds see. We believe what our eyes see.
There you go.
And so, and we only can pay attention to things that we're aware of. And so the only way you're aware of what's happening in that picture is if, one, you look at it for long enough, and then two, you're aware that there's all kinds of other pictures in there.
Yeah.
But if you take it at face value, you're just going to believe what your eyes see. There's a couple of different things that are at play here. One that I came across is the existential fallacy. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So the existential fallacy is when you require fictional concepts to be real in order to support your conclusions. That's happening every single day. That's happening every single day in our press corps, in the news, coming from the administration, where fictional things have to be true in order to support your assertions. We're seeing it right now with the fight that RFK is having with himself. And HHS and stuff, where he makes up hypothetical things and says that they're true just to kind of support his conclusions. And these things have not been proven true, but he's fighting against that. That's the existential fallacy. It's a crazy one. Like, there's so many different things. That's why I'm fascinated with cognitive science, because there's so many different ways to explain how our brains work, because we're not very good at understanding ourselves.
No.
And the brain's function isn't to see. People think the brain's function is to think and do all this high level stuff. Your brain's function is to keep you alive.
I like that.
Your brain's function is to keep you alive.
I gotta write that down. It's like like your brain's functions, its primary function is to keep you breathing.
Yeah,
keep you alive.
It's just like we talk to people. I read a book where it was talking about depression and everything, and they're like, they're talking about the concept of where they're talking about people believe it's mind over matter, and depression is just something. It's like, no, your brain's function is to keep you alive. It's not to make you happy. Your brain's job isn't to make you happy. It's your own job to make yourself happy. But your brain doesn't exist to make you happy. Your brain exists so that your lungs continue to operate and your heart continues to beat. That's what the brain's job is. Everything else is just what we've attributed to it.
That, Brian, I think that's probably the tightest thing I've ever heard you say. I mean, you've said some pretty cool stuff, but that is like, the brain's function is to keep you alive. It is not to make you happy. That's on you. It is to make sure that you are breathing. That's pretty tight, man. I like that.
Well, thank you. So, what you got on the screen?
Oh, I mean, no. So you have to do this. You got to do this with your head.
Oh, I see it.
You see it?
Yeah.
But if you're just standing straight, you don't really see it. You got to kind of look side to side a little bit to see if you, and it will just start kind of appearing. And again, like that's the reason why I love these things.
Yep.
You see
And
what I mean?
yep, I see what you're talking about.
I love these things.
Real quick, because I did at the top of the show, I forgot to plug it. I was waiting for your stuff. I made a couple of sales this week. And so I kind of had this epiphany this morning. This is absolute ADHD inspired shift in conversation. So just bear with me.
Okay.
But I kind of had this epiphany this morning. Why do people wait till New Year's to change shit? Why do people wait till New Year's to change things?
Because there's a few different things on that. Well, one of them is that we think that we spend so much time preparing for change as opposed to changing that majority of us think that we need a particular date, a particular time, a particular this, that, and the other. And if that's what you're looking for, then you're just looking for another excuse to stop once you start.
Yeah.
So if you're going to start something, start it now.
That's
Matter
the
of
point.
fact, like if you want to stop smoking today.
Mhm.
Well, I need to do it after the holidays. No, fucker. If you want to stop smoking, you stop smoking right now, right? Today, because if you think that I need to stop smoking once everything's clear. I need to stop smoking once everything's okay in my life. Once all the stress is gone, then after the holidays I can stop. No, if you want to stop now before things start getting bad.
Right.
You want to stop smoking when things are bad, because it's not when things are bad or good that you want to stop. You want to stop today when everything's going okay, and then tomorrow everything goes to shit.
Right. Because that's when you're gonna want. That's when you're gonna want that cigarette.
That's when you're gonna want that cigarette. That's when you're gonna want that drink. That's when you're gonna want to freebase cocaine or whatever else you got going on out there. But we think that we need a particular date and time to stop certain things. I can't tell you the day that I stopped smoking cigarettes. It was years ago. I'm sure if I went in, I could figure it out, but it's been years. I can't tell you the day that I stopped vaping.
Yep.
I don't know. I know I just one day I got sick and tired of doing that, and I quit. That was it.
And so that's why I'm asking, because it goes into the philosophy of what I'm doing. So I made a couple of sales for my school community and another sale for one of my courses about recording. And so I was sitting there and I'm like, I want to get people started. I want to get them started recording. And I've seen all these other people that do, we're going to have a 7-day sprint. We're going to have a 5-day sprint. You know what? In my community, if you want to, I'm doing a 3-day sprint. If you want to start recording, I want to get you recording in 3 days. And I don't want you to wait till New Year's. I don't want you to wait till after the holidays. I want you to get started now. So if you want to get started recording yourself now, I have my QR code in the corner. I have multiple ways to get you started, because I'm every year I run into people that want to reach out to me at the end of the year and say, Brian, this year I'm going to start creating my own content, and I'm going to start that channel, or I'm going to start establishing myself as a thought leader in my industry, and I need to start recording, and I'm going to start after the new year. And then they never do, because the new year starts, and then life starts after the new year, and all the things that they thought were going to change end up staying the same. And so they end up staying the same. Mm-hmm. So get started now. I have my QR code. If you guys are interested, hit me up. I want to teach you how to start recording yourself.
You know, another thing too that I would throw out there is ask yourself ask yourself a question. And the question that you want to ask yourself is, who else in your circle, who else in your team has told you, like, man, you should be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Who else has ever asked you or said to you, man, you should do podcasting, or you should do videos, or you should do this and the other? And I'm just going to be honest with you, dude. There's enough. We got enough people doing podcasting. We got enough people talking. We got enough people doing this and the other. Dude, here's the thing. If you haven't done it, you're probably not going to. And if you need coaching if you need help getting started, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you need help staying motivated, that's something totally different. And the fact of the matter is that first and foremost, if you want us to do it, you just do it. There's a million, literally a million and one videos on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube that will teach you how to throw together videos. I went in, I wanted to learn how to do intros and outros for my stuff. I got tired of asking Brian, what did I do?
You looked it up?
I went to Canva. I went to YouTube. I watched, there's a million and one videos. I found one that was quick, simple, and under 20 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'd seen that she had like 200 some thousand views. Perfect. I went to her stuff and I watched her stuff for probably 2 hours. And not only that, but it needs to be a current video. It needs to be a current video because they switch those videos up constantly. Yeah, thank you, Fred Flintstone. I know that. Oh, hold on, that's Chris. So yeah, and all you have to do is just put that in, and then and do that. I remember even asking somebody else, "Hey, can you show me could you make something for me in Canva?" No, just make it yourself. It's simple. All right, cool. And once I figured that out, I'm like, oh my God, this thing is so simple. It's time consuming, but once you're done with it, you're done. So I only had to do it one time and I was finished.
Well, and the thing is, for me, I'm like, I'll offer that push and get you rolling and give you feedback along the way. And sometimes some people need that. For me,
no, yes. And that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
If you need that push to get you started,
mm-hmm.
that's one thing, because I know that certain people just need a little extra. I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're not going to do is hold your hand every single step of the way from right now to like the next 3-4 years. Because if Brian's not available and you're like, well, I'm not doing it because he's not here, then he's doing you a serious injustice and we're not helping you. Our job is to help. Our job is to work ourselves out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
I can hop on right now because Brian taught me how to do this. Like literally. So you can go into it. Is it Axe Fearless? I have 100 and actually probably almost 200 videos on there, half of which I did on my own for myself. I did it every single day for 100 days for an hour and a half every day. You are nowhere near going to do that. So what I would suggest for my guy, same thing a friend of mine told me, 15 minutes, talk, what was it? 15 days, 15 minutes, talk about whatever you got going on, and that's it. Keep it short, quick, and simple for 15 days. Mm-hmm. That's it. Hop on, turn it on, talk for 15 minutes, get off.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's just me though. Brian got 3 days. I'm just saying 15 because at least then, like it's a consistency. Now again, if you asking me, I would tell you to do it for 90 days. That's just me. But when I do stuff, I go so far out there, it's crazy. So you're not gonna do what I do.
My thing,
do that.
My thing is, and this is the philosophy behind it, Fearless. Psychology is, for me at least, it's shit or get off the pot. I want you to go out and get that minimum viable video done so you can get the feeling over with. So you can power through all those, because you're still going to have them. You're never going to turn loose of them, but I at least want you to at least say you got the first one done.
Yeah.
And then we can start, and we could get, and then we can put the framework in place so that we can record your second one. And the second one becomes a little bit easier. And then the third one is a little bit easier. And the fourth one is a little bit easier. But at least we have a framework and a methodology for how we're creating these things, so that all you got to do is just sit down and institute the framework, and you're creating stuff. And I think what happens is, and this is what I'm from interviewing, because this is what I've been doing in my office. This is what I've been doing when I'm not on here, is talking to people and saying, what's your barrier? What are you holding on? Why don't you, what is the thing that's keeping you from pressing record? What's the thing that's keeping you from turning on the camera? And asking them what it is. And it ends up becoming a lot of excuses about being perfect out the gate. And so I'd rather rush you through the frameworks and get you to where you're actually producing a video, and then we get it over with, and then we figure out how to make it better for next time. So that's why I'm saying a 3-day sprint.
Or like Mr. B said, dude, if you haven't shot at least 100 videos, who gives you, bro? Nobody's gonna look at you. No, the first 100 videos, it should just be you. Just getting on camera.
Yeah.
First 100 videos. I did that. 100 videos, 100 days, no days off. For what was it? From 8:30 to 10 o'clock, sometimes over.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave a different presentation every single night for 100 nights. Shut that shit down, man. Turn the goddamn camera on and just get started. Ain't even that serious, man. But again, though, I think that if it's for you, you're gonna make it work. If it's not, then it's not. Go off and go do something else. Nobody's the wiser. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, that shit's out, man. Either show up or don't.
Well, and that's what this is. It's just a pathway. Get you started. Right. Get you started as quickly as possible.
And then when you're gone, guess what? Nobody's gonna give a shit about your videos, champ. Nobody. That eventually, I think, and I'm just telling you what I think. I think eventually, YouTube's gonna cost money. I strongly believe that. I think that it's gonna be just like it costs money now to watch it without commercials, which I've had that for years. I will never go back and watch commercials. I think that eventually it's going to get to a point where if you want to be a streamer, it's going to cost you. So if you want your stuff up there, you might want to get started now.
Yeah.
Well, while it's still free. Because like Gary Vee was talking about, eventually it will not be. And I'm telling you, you're going to pay it.
Yeah.
Whatever that price is, you're going to pay it.
Well, and I think people are understanding, because I think there is a generational thing where people don't understand, like YouTube or how this stuff works. The generation coming after us, this is all they consume. This is how they consume their media.
You're talking about the Z.
Yeah.
Generation Z.
It's rare to get them to sit down and watch something on a television screen. It's really rare. More times than not is watching it through their phone. My kids will sit there and watch television shows and movies through their phone. It drives me nuts. I couldn't do it.
Like, you got a whole TV right there.
It drives me nuts. I don't understand how they do it, but that's how they consume it. And so these platforms out there exist if you want to get into the space. And I'm not even talking about, because I think the other thing is I have to clarify. My offer isn't for if you're not trying to learn how to create content as a business owner, this may not be the right offer for you.
Say that one more time.
If you're not trying to learn how to create content as a business owner to drive business, this probably ain't for you.
I mean, unless they just want to like make videos and stuff like that, like
then they can go the other route. They can go that other route, or unless they're looking to
Monetize what they're doing.
Monetize what they're doing early on and learn the basic frameworks of how people that, because here's the thing, there's different types of YouTubers. There's YouTubers that are out there for the love of the game and they're just creating content. There are YouTubers that this is their business. And so they look at it as a business, which is what the head of YouTube said that you need to be doing. And then there are business owners who are on YouTube and they use YouTube to drive business to themselves. I'm sitting in that last space. And so that's what I'm trying to teach people how to do. But if you're in that other space where you want to get started and make that your business, I could teach you some of that too. But if you're just looking just for shits and gigs to turn on the camera and start talking, and you want to be an influencer, the philosophy behind being an influencer is different than being a copywriter or a marketing professional who utilizes social media to drive business.
Okay.
It's a different monster, different philosophy, different headspace. Because if you're doing influencer thing, influencers are super driven by what's trending. And so that's why they always are looking at what video games are popular right now, what movies are coming out right now. That's what influencers do. They look and see what's trending right now, and then they make content based on what's trending. A business owner is going to look at what question what question do people come to me for? What problem do they pay me to solve? And typically that stays the same.
Okay.
It evolves a little bit, but it stays the same. A lot of this stuff is stuff I have for my own live stream. But so when you're looking to do it as a business, you're not looking to go viral. In fact, that might be the last thing you want. You might think it's nice until you get a bunch of people that aren't aligned with you, aren't aligned with your product, and now they're opining on what you're offering.
Gotcha.
And they're downvoting what you're offering. And they're scrutinizing your offer and clowning you because the camera isn't placed right, or this isn't right, or you have a piece of hair out of place. They're not coming to you to solve a problem. They're just coming to you for entertainment. That's a different monster. And that's not what my offer's for. I'm not for people that aren't. If you're just looking for, I want to be an influencer and you don't want to build a business out of it, or you're not doing it for the sake of business, then the offer ain't for you. You can go online and learn how to turn on a webcam and how to watch a movie and react to it like you've never seen it before, even though we know you have. You can go online and learn how to do that. But if you want to learn how to, I have auto parts store and I need to make content to drive customers, then that's where you come to me.
Right.
And that's where I give you ideas on how to make your content entertaining enough to draw in the kind of clients that you need, or informative enough. So that's what it is. So, and that's what it is. That's why I designed it. And so in my other stuff, I've built it and said, this is for business owners. A lot of my content is, how do business owners do this? How do business owners do that? How do they leverage micro audiences to make sales and make money? Because something I've done for other businesses. So I'm teaching other people how to do it. Okay. I like that. So I think I probably should have led with that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
To make that clarification, because the influencer, yeah, Mr. Beast, now he sees it as a business. He sees his YouTube channel as a business, as an enterprise right now. Right. When he first started, he didn't necessarily see it that way. MKBHD, he saw it as fun at first until it became a business. And when you see how he operates and how he treats it, he's running a full television production.
Yes.
It's a business for him.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the other one? Linus Tech Tips. He's one of the biggest people on the platform. He's always kind of run his stuff like a business. And he has people that have videos mad at him because he runs his shit like a business.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, there's videos that, there's always videos when you see somebody that has an actual viable business on one of these social media platforms, there's going to be people that monetize videos that take down videos, talking about while they want to do is sell you stuff. Yeah, they're running a business. That's what the business is for, is to sell you things.
Right.
or they're selling your ideas. They're selling you ideas or selling you on watching more of their content. That's what the business model involves.
Gotcha.
Oh, well, they're just trying to, they're just trying to make $1. Okay. So do you go to work? What are you trying to do at work? You're trying to make $1. So what I'm saying is this. People feel a certain kind of way about YouTubers that turn it into a business, but the YouTubers that are actually able to survive and thrive and have a long career are the ones that do treat it like a business.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you.
What was it? What's that little boy's name? I forgot. The one who used to Ryan's World, who at the top for a long time, he was the #1 channel on YouTube. And all he did was open toys and play with them.
He doesn't do that anymore?
I don't know if Ryan's World, he's gone into other kind of content now where he has more like skits and stuff like that. For a long time, that was it. And lots of kids saw that and said, yeah, I want to be like Ryan. And children are great. But the thing about kids is they don't understand. Ryan's parents built a whole production out of it.
Okay.
They scripted things. They had a crew. They had light guy and audio guy and all this other stuff. It was a full television production. And people only see that. They made Ryan's World into a business. That's why it lasted so long. All these people that are successful in the space, they last long because they treat it like a business. And that's why I think that's where I have a difficulty. That's why I'm having difficulty. I'm growing on TikTok really fast. I'm gonna be honest with you. But a lot of people who are in that TikToker space, it's people that just want to go viral and they haven't thought anywhere past going viral.
Okay.
And so all their content is how to go viral on TikTok. And it's nothing about any of their own personality and stuff. And then they end up becoming interchangeable with the hundreds of other people that are telling you how to go viral and telling you how the algorithm works and all that other stuff. And there are people at TikTok that don't know how the damn algorithm works. There are engineers that work on the algorithm at TikTok who couldn't tell you fully how the algorithm works because that's proprietary information and TikTok would never let them know all aspects of how this thing works. Because if they did, what's stopping them from going to Facebook and saying, here's how TikTok's algorithm works? So that's what I'm saying. But they're not looking at it as a business. They're looking at it as how do I become an influencer? How do I become famous? Okay. I don't want fame. I want money. Give me the fortune, keep the fame. You know what I'm saying?
Right, correct. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. That people, like, here's the thing. I don't mind being known for something. That's one thing.
Yeah.
If I have to be always on camera, always this, that, and the other, you know what I mean? Yeah, that shit's kind of weird. I don't like all that.
Right. Like yesterday, I was sitting there. I had actually get a new EIN for something for a business venture. Like I said, that's what I spent my time on, and it was for my online content to collect money. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of time, like I spent hours out of my day getting all that stuff set up, getting all the systems in place because I'd made money before I was expecting the money to come in. So I had to set up the system and framework to actually take the money that I had been paid and move it to my bank account because I hadn't set up the system for that. I did this with a micro audience, with a super small audience, but it was intent. There's an intent behind it. And I think a lot of times when people sit down and turn on the camera, they ain't got that level of intent. They're just looking to start talking, which is fine. But if you're looking to do it for real and take it seriously or make money off of it, you have to adopt a different mindset. And a lot of adopting a different mindset is we don't wait till January 1st to change shit. We start changing it as soon as we are aware that we need to change it.
Okay.
So that's what the 3-day sprint is. I don't even want to do a 5-day sprint. I just want 3 days. 3 days. I want you to sit down. We script it, shoot it, and distribute it. 3 days. That's what I want. I want you to get all over all that. How do I look on camera shit and all that other, I want all that to go out the way. I don't want y'all to think about that. I want y'all to sit down, take a look at, frame yourself, get the lights on, know how it looks, record it, record it, and let's get it posted. And that's
Mhm.
what the sprint is. So you can get past that entire anxiety thing. And we're not even going to look at the numbers. We're going to post it, not even pay attention to the numbers. The only numbers we're going to look at is if it makes your phone ring, if you get inquiries for your business. Those are the numbers that we care about. Did this video make my phone ring? Did this video get people knocking on my door looking to give me money? All right, cool. Then the video worked. Well, a billion people saw it in, or a million people saw it in Singapore. I don't. Are the people paying you money? Well, no. Well, then that doesn't matter. So I don't do the virality thing as a coach. I don't. There are people you can pay to do that kind of stuff, not me.
Okay.
So anyway, that's what I got. Fearless. Let's plug what you got, man. I'm gonna put your stuff on the screen.
Oh, I'm just here to listen, man. You know, so if you guys need to talk, this is what I do. A professional reframer, philosopher, life coach. That's my thing. So if you guys need to talk, I'm it.
There's Fearless's on the screen. Scan it. It'll take you to his stand store.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And you can book a time to sit down. You can book a time to talk to Fearless.
Yep. Here I'll go into my stand as well. Hold on. Hold on. Yep, I'll log in. What's my boom? All right, here we go. Where we where we at on my store?
Oh, I'm not. It's not on the screen yet.
Is it? No.
Nope.
Hold on. Let me get you guys share screen. Yeah. Boom. Bam. There you go. Hit me up. Or what is that? Is that my QR code up there?
Well, click. Okay, so go. I want you to go up to where it says stand store and click on that up in the corner where it says call Fearless, and we could show you because you're showing them your dashboard, your stand store dashboard, the back end of your stand store. Show them the front end of yours.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Go. I'm telling you, go to where it says up in the corner where it says stand store / call Fearless. That's what you want to show.
Boom! Ha ha ha! I didn't even know what the freakers I was looking at. There it is.
So that's what they're going to see. So when you go to Fearless' stand store, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah, boom. I like to keep everything simple.
All right, and I guess I'll pull mine up here.
I had to reset this one from yesterday. I had to reset the whole thing or whatever, which is kind of funny because it doesn't show any of my sales or nothing. I'm like, I don't care. Let's just put the thing back up there.
Yep.
Or whatever, like I said. So I had to reset it because something happened. I don't know what it was. I had to send them an email and all kind of stuff or whatever. So they literally just reset my whole thing. So I had to go back in and reset everything.
Okay. So, guys, if you want, this is click the QR code is for Fearless' stand store here. I'm about to throw mine up on the screen.
Yeah, for sure.
So click on there. This is for me, and I need to share a screen for mine. One thing I'm building right now is I built a tool. I got to change a couple of things on the front end. I built a tool that helps you write content. So it'll spit out an outline for you based on the keywords and what niche you're in. So this is my stand store right here. I got my 5-minute video scripting system here. Content to Cash Machine, which is basically I'll give you the basics of lighting, audio, and video, which is a self-contained course. I have a tool that helps you pick the right platform.
Oh, nice.
I have my social media templates that I'll be editing here shortly. If you want a clarity call where I sit down and actually go through your social media live with you, we can book a time to sit down and talk, and I'll do a clarity audit with you. I have my YouTube channel, and then I have my school community, which is growing by the day. I got a couple people in there that are looking to start making videos, and so that's why I'm putting together this sprint to get them rolling. And if you just want me for an entire day to sit down and go holistically, 100%, take a deep dive into your marketing and all of that stuff, and I can provide you recommendations and provide you a plan. I have my VIP day, and so you can schedule that out and just kind of book me for 4 to 6 hours, and we can just sit down and I can go through all your stuff. So that's what it is. This is why I'm shutting down my agency, y'all. I'm shutting down a lot of my marketing agency stuff to actually teach y'all and put y'all in the position to do this stuff yourself.
Good stuff. I like it.
So that's what I got, guys. Anyway, Fearless, you have anything else, man?
No, I'm good,
right.
man.
All right. So enjoy your days off if you get them, whatever you celebrate. Make sure that you spend it with your family. Enjoy your time. Spend it with people you care about. We will get to you guys next week. It's Brian and Fearless with the Trial and Error podcast. We'll talk to you guys later.
It was just